So to get through a Grand Tour in a good shape, the most important thing is to start in a good shape. Before they would say riders would start in not their best shape to grow in the Grand Tour, or to start with a bit of extra weight to lose it until the big mountain stages. I'm only professional for 10 years, but I can imagine that maybe it was like that, let's say 20 years ago. Because in my first Grand Tours, very often there were stages that were very, very slow, that my dad would have been able to finish that stage in the time cut. Let's say there would have been 6, 7 stages in a Grand Tour like that. Now the level is so high that when you're not in a good condition, when you're not in a good shape, you suffer so much to recover from a stage, and already the next stage is coming because every day there's a stage coming. Starting in the best possible shape you can have is very important. Mentally, it is very helpful to have a good atmosphere in the team. If you have a good group of riders, that helps a lot. When you have the smallest irritation between riders, you know sooner or later in a Grand Tour this will collapse to a big thing. Imagine going on a holiday, even with your family, for 1 month, there will be issues. Sooner or later there will be an issue. On top of that, you're not only away for 1 month together, you want to give the best of yourself, you will be very tired at some point, and for sure will also affect the mental situation and the friendship. In our team, actually we have a very good bond, and that's very helpful. It can be that you go to a Grand Tour and you're rooming with somebody that's not your best friend, and that's difficult. Nutrition-wise, it's important to get in a lot of calories. What's also very important is that you don't overfuel, because once you overfuel too much and you're triggering your digestion and your guts, over-triggering it, you start to get difficulties with digesting, and things get very complicated. A one-day race is quite easy. If you look to the sodium, which Precision Fuel is very focused on and has a lot of knowledge about. Look to sodium intake on a one-day race, it's quite easy. If you just take the maximum you can digest, you will be fine. If you do this in a Grand Tour, you might over time gain too much fluid. You gain too much weight because of fluid, you go in the mountains with too much weight. So you more have to balance out, exactly take the salts you need. Is it a hot day? Is it a hard day? Is it easy and hot? Easy and cold? Is it hard and hot? These all have influence on the sodium intake. Very happy we could develop together the non-sodium drink. We know like certain riders might drink on a hot day 3 bottles with sodium. Another rider might drink 2 bottles without sodium, another can take 3 bottles, and like this we all try to find the perfect outcome. And then next to that, when you're in the stage, you always want to go to your limits of carb intake, always, even on an easy stage, because once you're getting depleted in a stage, you have to restore it, but you're restoring it and still you want to load for the day after, so always in stage we fuel up to the max, but not over the max like I said before.
That leads me actually into my next one. So this is going to be Victor Campenaerts on a few things that go on in the Peloton that you really wouldn't know if you've not been there, riding in it. What kind of things happen? Talk to us about the experience. We watched the Peloton, it looks like a machine, but it's a bunch of people and you're together a lot. So interesting stuff must go on. So yeah, what happens in the Peloton that we don't see?
I would say the Peloton especially is dynamic in all kind of ways in tours. In one-day races we are very focused and you're not really talking a lot or having a lot of interaction with other teams. But in tours, especially Grand Tours like the Tour de France, we're on the bike together a lot of hours. And often we ride very fast, but also there are moments that we're in some kind of a comfort zone. So you make friends from other teams, other nationalities during a Grand Tour. And also at some moments later on in the tour, you can get very tired, very, how you say it in English, sensitive. There was one moment this Tour de France on the Col de la Loze, extremely hard stage over 5,000 altitude meters in the last week of the Tour de France. I was in the gruppetto. The gruppetto most of the time works together. We have one goal, making the time cut, and we are quite friendly on each other, and there are no more teams in gruppetto. We're one team, the gruppetto, we want to make the time cut. When somebody is in difficulties, you give him a push things like that. That's not really allowed. What we often do is like, you would give a bottle, like a sticky bottle on the bike. You need to have good legs, or you need to be fresh in the gruppetto to give a sticky bottle to a rider that's in difficulties. But those things happen. But then in this stage, we had 3 massive climbs, and Col de la Loze was the last one. And it had some very steep parts in there. Very long on the bike, we're eating massive amounts of carbs, and sometimes the belly is in some kind of a difficulty. And I was on one of the last very steep sections of Col de la Loze, and I really needed to fart. And I was there with one rider close to me. Everybody was a bit spread on the climb. We were safe for the time cut, so we were all just struggling our way up. I farted on a place with not too many people, but it needed to get out because it still was like 10 minutes of climbing. And this rider was so annoyed by it, even getting aggressive, that he had to inhale my fart because he was so close to me. Obviously, we were all very tired, and this small thing made him very, very angry.
That's great. Fantastic. Good story. In the Peloton, do you ever share nutrition? Like if someone comes up to you, they really need a gel, they're from another team, would you give away your PF and H to them? Or does it depend on the situation?
Especially again in Grand Tours, we are more sharing conversations, sharing thoughts, or sharing food. I have to say it's less common than before. Let's say when I started as a professional about 10 years ago, we would have all kind of stuff. Ham and cheese sandwiches, rice balls, things from the bakery stored in the feeding bags that we get. And when you're in the Grand Tour, it's an easy stage. You would right away go to a friend from another team and swap out different things. Now cycling, it needed to get more professional. I have a background in swimming and triathlon, and I could clearly see cycling was lacking behind. I was happy about that because that made it more easy for me to make big steps in the beginning of my career. But now cycling in the last years is so much more professional. What we eat, we are all counting. Very limited riders are not counting in the peloton. We are happy that most of the gels are around 30 grams, just like Precision Fuel. It might happen that we change out the gel. And also Precision Fuel has been around in the peloton for a long time. For a long time it's known as the salt products, and a lot of riders are using it before the race or during the race. They have some saccage in their rain bag for on hot days. That's when you're in a breakaway, you can ask a mechanic to prepare a bottle like that. But the gels and just sports drink is more new, and a lot of riders that are using the salt drinks for a longer time, they are eager to try out the gels. That does happen more often, but I have to say it's more like a one-time thing. They want to taste it, and then they go back to the schedule that is set up before.